be able to see who's in order to ask your questions. However, if you have questions regarding where is something in your portal or something about the upcoming live event or something along those lines, let's save those particular questions for Bailey. Bailey is the keeper of all those things in regards to the Kajabi portal, upcoming coaching classes, things like that. So let's keep those for her. She is right here, and she'll be able to post in the chat as well and get you any help that you need there. But before we do that, does anybody have a win that they want to share? And if you do, feel free on this one to just go ahead and unmute yourself and share your win so we don't mess up anyone in the queue. Anyone have a win for this week?
Yeah, I do. I do. It's
All
Laura.
right, Laura, come on. What is it, girl?
Still making those phone calls to auto repair shop owners, and I'm getting much better and more comfortable with talking. And more of them are starting to talk to me and calling back even. So, yeah, I got another one on the line talking to them this week.
I noticed that the other day. I heard you talking to Coach Bill on your call, and I was going to tell you, the way you talk, you're just so much more confident, you're so much more excited, and it really does portray back when you're talking to people. So, well done. And you've just been, I'll tell you what, from the moment that you jumped in, you have been a go-getter and you are really fun to watch. So, I'm so excited to see your success every single week. So,
Thank
well
you.
done, Laura. All right. Well, if you guys have questions, go ahead and raise your hands and we'll start getting those questions kicked off with Roland today. How are you today, Roland? I see he's in here. There he is. Bailey, did we lose him?
Nope, I think he's here. He might just need a moment to
Okay.
press,
Okay.
perhaps.
So anyone else? I think Gary, you got your hand raised. Thank you for doing that. Anybody else that wants to raise their hands, feel free to raise your hands. We'll get you in that queue to ask those questions. Does anybody have a win besides Laura? Come on, I want to hear those wins.
I actually have a win too. I got my second CFE deal this year on that 10-10-10 model.
Gary, wow, congratulations. Bailey, did you hear that? Hit him up and let's get him in that book and let's get you an award, my friend. Well done, Gary. Congrats.
Can he
Everybody, let's give
explain
Gary love.
can he explain what that is?
Okay, who does not know what a 10-10-10 is? Raise your hand. You can just point your hand up. There you go. So that means that he went in as a consulting for equity partnership and he got $10,000 a month or 10% profitability every month, whichever is greater, and then 10% equity in that business. So, Gary, well done, my friend. That is awesome. Do you want to, before we kick things off with Roland, did you want to share maybe just a little point on how you got that deal?
Well, it actually took me over a year to get it, but I ended up just helping sort of just add in value first. So a little bit different, but I actually added some value first in the CEO of the company personally. So like I helped him with some mindset and some personal stuff, and then it kind of just led to, well, what can you do with the business, and it went in one door and then came out like on a completely different path. So partner in the company and have my work cut out. These are just like the acquisition and having to do integration of consolidating companies. The CFE, you get in and then you realize that everything you thought is a little bit different, and it becomes a lot of work, I guess, if once you get in there. But I'm learning it, so I have to learn the marketing, like a lot of that revenue stuff that I didn't know, lead generation to marketing and actually using the tools.
Wow, well done. I know I spoke with a founders board member that day and they mentioned that they were chatting with you as well. So excited to see that you are absolutely jumping in there and working leads and well done on your 10-10-10. I love that, Gary. All right, Bailey, make sure we get him in the book and we will make sure that next time we see you, Gary, are you going to be at the September event so we can give you your trophy?
Yeah, I'll be there in September.
All right. Well, my friend, you will definitely get a trophy then there. I love that. You're all right. Anybody else before we go to questions with Roland? All right. Anybody else have a win? If not, Roland, or how are you today? we may be getting, I know he's trying to get logged in. So
Almost here.
there you go. No worries. Anybody else want to share while we've got Roland
Well,
getting
let's go
logged
ahead and start with question
in? Okay.
D.
Okay. Awesome. I see. Okay. So really quickly, Gary, you had your hand raised, just making sure. Did you want to go back to having your hand raised?
Yes, if possible. Yeah.
Okay. I saw that your hand got taken down. So let's start with you because I think you were there. So let's get your question started. What's your first question? And then we'll go to Laura.
So my question is on one of my CFE deals, I'm actually guiding them to do an acquisition, and um, we were having I was originally going to do, like, I was working on this one in the beginning of the year before June, and I was going to do the SBA with that partial standby note. So we kind of already had some preliminary terms with the company because there's four partners in this company. It's a behavioral health company. They're just under 10 million. Had a bad year last year because of the some audit in Arizona, but now they're on track to go back to what they were. And so we were going to do it. So we bought the partial standby note. We were going to have them have a minority interest, but that's gone now because of June 1st. So where
Yep.
we're at is they kind of wanted, so we agreed on a $5 million purchase price.
Okay.
And they kind of wanted to stay, they wanted us to basically put up 1.5 million of that purchase, and they keep 70%. But because of the SBA, I don't know if it was going to work because so where we left it, just in case we use SBA, was we would buy 100% of it, and then they would buy back or put back 3.5 million. And so I was trying to work through that term sheet because we may not end up using SBA because I don't think it'll allow that, but I don't know if you have any idea on how we could make that work. So the basic steps would be 5 million purchase price. We would want control. That's why we actually prefer to do it as an acquisition. They buy back 3.5 million so that we can add a detox because they already have an outpatient and then a couple of inpatient, but they don't have this detox facility, which is the big revenue maker. So we want that. That was how we did the deal. Is we said, look, we come in, bring in cash, and then grow the company and immediately get a detox. So they were like, okay, that sounds good. So with the 3.5 that they roll, I mean, they might keep a little bit, maybe get rid of one of the partners that doesn't want to do this, and then we roll that money. And then we were talking about buying the detox and maybe splitting 50% the future activities and then 50% above whatever their baseline is. Because if we're only at a 30% for the first 30% stock, just on the way that it shakes on the $1.5 million that we're contributing minus the 3.5. So I don't know if I'm trying to get a sanity check to see if this is something that makes sense to do either with SBA or with another like private money, and if I'm missing anything and how I'm structuring this.
Where do you see the real value? Is the real value in the addition of the detox?
The real value is having this as a platform to go buy several more, but the detox is immediate value for this particular company. It would really increase the revenue. Their revenue is probably going to be growing slowly, but adding the detox will maybe close to 1.5 or 2x the revenue.
And then you were um, originally going to do a 1.5 SBA loan, and did you say you had four partners? Did I hear that as part of the?
No, the company we're buying has four partners.
Okay. And is this so then you were going to basically do an SBA loan yourself on this?
So I'm doing CFE. So my company that I'm advising was going to be the one to do the the loan.
Okay. So one thing that would be interesting would be maybe to split the deal into two parts and start with the detox center and whatever the funding that's needed for that, basically create a new company. The new company might be owned, if it's going to be SBA, your existing people probably aren't going to want to be on that loan, so they're going to have to own under 20% to start. So maybe you start that and own it, and own it 81% with your CFE client and 19% with the existing people. The sole purpose of that company is to do the detox thing. You use SBA funding to provide 90% of the funding for that, and the funding for that could be, and that could be done as a basically spin off the detox center from the existing company, use the SBA loan to acquire the detox center, use a 90% loan, have the value be established at whatever you need to get the amount of cash that you need to give the guys to do that, then have an option to acquire the remainder of the practice and make it a 3 or 5 year option to acquire that for a $5 million valuation if you wanted to, or at 3.5 or whatever the deal points shake out to be. Then you could basically two-step your way in, get the detox center done, have the partnership, have the acquisition partially completed with the option, and then ultimately the whole thing comes together in the end, and it's all financed through that. Basically the same strategy you're talking about, except splitting it in two, I think actually can make it work with the changes in the SBA.
Okay, so find the detox first, which we don't necessarily have yet, but if we did that, it'd be cleaner because we would lead with that, give them 19% and tie it down with the option so that when we actually get the 1.5 or whatever we were going to get.
You didn't build value for them that now costs you more. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so does that mean we should kind of, is there a way to, like, if we're already kind of at this term sheet stage with this $5 million, so is there a way to move forward with, I mean, we could get the money without SBA. It's just as far as if we did move forward with this, because this happened before we got the detox, is that logical to do what we were saying is like 1.5, 30%. So we'd have 30% of their existing revenue up to whatever their normal top line baseline would be, and then we would split everything 50-50 afterwards, including the detox. Is that a fair shake too?
Yeah, it is. I think that depending on what the work is going to be done and where the funding is going to come for the detox, it might be a different split. But yes, I think the 70-30 on the one splits. Maybe you do 70-30 their way on the existing and 30-70 on the detox. That would be
that's what the other partners were thinking too. It was hard to. So if we did the 30-70 on the detox, then it would be 50-50 on the existing facilities above the baseline.
Exactly.
And then that would be okay.
Yeah. But I think it's important that you have the option to complete the acquisition based on a value as it is today so that you don't add additional value to the assets that you're then going to buy later.
Oh, so I missed that on the term sheet. So we definitely in both scenarios need to have that option to acquire 100% at existing value.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Awesome. And Gary, if you need to be connected to our SBA Concierge Bass, just let me know and I'll make sure they do an intro for you because we have a wonderful concierge that works with our.
Oh, we're working. I've been working with his business partner, Sal.
Okay, great. Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, Gary.
Yeah, it's great.
Good. All right, Laura, I think you're next. Congratulations on your momentum. What is your question today?
Hey, Laura.
Hi. Well, my question is, talking to a seller, how might I pitch him regarding some kind of partnership or preferably into selling? So this guy is an auto repair shop owner, but he's not really thinking of retiring yet. But he no longer turns wrenches because the business runs for himself. It's an 11-year-old business making $4.4 million last year. Yeah, lots of techs and office workers, bays and lifts. He said he's willing to explore partnering with us, maybe continuing to operate the shop if we acquire it. He said it would be nice to have a little cash on the side to do something else that I want to do with it. I don't know. He's leasing the property 8 years.
So do you have a specific question?
Yeah, I don't want to scare him off. And I don't know enough about partnering to really explain how that might work. How might I partner with an owner who says he's not ready to sell yet?
Yeah, well, I mean, like what we do in the Mango Automotive is we're talking to people all the time, and so that we could have deals that we that we decided not to acquire, or where the sellers wanted too much money or for whatever reason they weren't ready to sell, we started offering them coaching to provide them with the ability to exit the business. This guy sounds like he perhaps, and a lot of times they'll tell you that they're no longer in the business, but they're still
Mm.
pretty much in the business. And even if he's not turning wrenches, he might be, doing the accounting or generating the leads or, managing everybody or whatever. So you'd really want to identify that because if it's owner operated versus truly professionally managed, that's a completely different, different way that you approach each of those. But
Mhm.
with respect to having the conversation, I think it's what are his goals? He's okay. So the goal is I'd like to have some cash now, but I'd like to still be involved. Excellent. One of the ways that you can do that is a partial sale. So that's something that that we can help with. If you're not looking really at acquisition and you're looking at CFE, the consulting for equity kind of component, then it's just determine what are the needs of the business. What are the things that he is doing now that he doesn't like, or what is the business not doing now that he wishes as it would do. And one of the things might be that he is still in the operations, even if he's not turning the wrenches. Another thing might be that he's just, he's kind of stalled, and it's like it's fine and it's making good money, but he'd like to think about expanding it, which you could help with, or he'd like to maybe figure out how do I turn this, into a more automated system using what's happening with AI and automation now. And so then you can help with that. And keep in mind, you don't have to have those skills directly. You just need to be able to identify what are the challenges and needs that he's got, what are the solutions that will satisfy those things to give him the transformation that he wants, and then identify people that you can either hire or partner with at a lower amount than you can negotiate with him, and then you do a straight arbitrage on that difference, right? So, I mean, that's really kind of the opportunity, but you have to do a discovery thing with him to really understand what is it that he's not completely jumping up and down and happy with right now. If it's as simple as, I'd like to get some cash, then you might even just help him do that. And then you can charge him a consulting fee to help him work with that. And then that's your first transaction and he's happy with that. And then you'll identify other things that he wants after that. And you're also kind of top of mind for any future deals.
Where do I find someone who knows how to grow his business to do the actual CFE work that I don't know how to do?
That would be Jesse would be the easiest place, and Deanna and Bailey can connect you to her. She's my partner in Mango Automotive.
Yeah, we've already connected Laura with her. So I
Yep.
would lean heavily, Laura, on Jesse.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And
Awesome.
Deanna, in the event that that isn't something that's a fit, are there a couple of other people that I can think of off the top of my head, but their names escape me, that we might be able to connect her to that are in that space as well?
Absolutely. And Laura, I would reach out to Coach Bill because he can actually help you on the calls and explain how to do that. But there are several people we can connect you. So, Laura,
Good.
we've got you. Absolutely.
Thank you.
We
Well,
can
I'm over
totally
on
do
the
that.
East Coast. I'm far away from Mango Automotive.
Well, I know,
For
but he
now.
also for now, because I mean she's growing. And
Mhm.
also because you're in fast track, Laura, Coach Bill can help do the calls and help structure that with you. So
Yep.
you work with him and he'll help you with that.
Thank you.
You're
Okay,
very
Laura.
welcome.
All right, Celine, good to see you.
Celine, how are you?
I think you're
Hello,
good,
hello.
dear. There you are.
You can, if you can hear me. Great. Okay, my question is to Roland is, I'm launching a faith-based, family-friendly board game and found a fellow creator who shut down 2 years ago, but still emails his list.
Celine, I'm sorry. Can you talk up a little bit more? It's hard to hear you, dear.
Okay,
There you go.
I'm launching a faith-based, family-friendly board game and found a fellow creator who shut down 2 years ago, but still emails his list because he still has an active IP. What is the best way to approach him about acquiring his list for my board game?
Sure. So that's basically just exactly what we walk you through in the course. So there's a lot of training on the details of that, and I think you can definitely get on with one of the coaches, and they can help you with it. That like big questions like how do I approach somebody and what's the process, I think are best done on the coaching calls because you can take a long time to do it. If you've got a specific question about it, that's like a challenge you're having or anything like that, this is a great place to do that. So do you have like a more specific question than kind of just how do I approach them? Because we do have all that laid out in the training.
Yes. Yeah, it's just his board. Well, one of the challenges he's having is with there's been complaints about the quality of the board game, his board games that he's been offering, and he's been absolutely dreading talking to the list. He's been like, I don't want to talk to the list because I'm frightened of all the complaints that are coming through.
Okay.
And so that's one of them. So he's totally burned out. He's like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's too frightening. My customers are scaring me, and they keep complaining about the quality of the board games. And I've been hearing that a lot in the board game industry. That there is a complaint of the quality of the games, the board game that comes to on their doorstep. So clearly that's a problem, and he's burnt out and doesn't want to do this anymore. So I'm just thinking, well, how? And the thing is, my board game is my board game is completely different in that it's about the tagline of my board game is all the Bible is true, but not all of it is for you. Whereas everybody else is into let's just teach them anything, all the Bible is for everybody.
And is
it's
this
not.
list was the previous game that he sold a faith-based game?
It's a faith-based game, but they don't give the right mail. So my board game is completely different. It's going to be Swiss made, the high quality, so I can sell on a different angle from him.
Got it. So what you might think about doing is rather than email, you might think about acquiring his ad account if he's got one, and if not, then you could acquire the emails. You need to check the terms of service, but if you could acquire the list and then use that for targeted ads that were basically retargeting ads so that you could then know that you were hitting that list of people. I'm not sure that you have any goodwill. It sounds like you have, the opposite of goodwill, which is ill will, that would be built into the list. So I'm not sure that him emailing it and saying, I know the game that I sent you before was terrible, but this one's great. They're going to be like, yeah, buddy, we fell for that the one time. By the way, I want a refund. I get why he doesn't want to email that list. So I'm not sure that there's, a lot in it for you in that list. The biggest value would be like if you wanted to identify people that had previously purchased a faith-based game that cost close to what yours was, then maybe reaching them through ads that don't tie back to the previous thing, so that it's not an advantage for him to email and say, hey, I like this new game. I'm wrapping my arm around it and telling you it's good because his reputation and his credibility is not great. So I think that the way for you to get something out of that would be to simply have the list uploaded or acquire his ad account, which would be even better if he's got one that already has those names in it, and then use that for retargeting and build lookalike lists off of that to go and market directly to those people that are known buyers of that thing that you're selling. And because we know that quality was an issue, I would definitely lean heavily into the quality, like high production value for a video that you would use, on the website. Everything should scream high quality. That's what I would, do. I wouldn't pay anything for that though. It would have to be 100% earnout based. And, and we've done lots of deals like that. So I think that's what I would be looking for. I'm not sure I would want the email. I'm not sure I'd want him emailing them.
Okay, so I just need to manage to get them this myself and then sweet talk them and say, hey, I'm in.
Well, not really. So you're not selling, because that's what I want to stop you from doing. You don't want to sell against the past bad experience. You want to
Yeah.
basically hit them anew. So let's say I bought his game and I hate it and I hate him and I asked for a refund and I didn't get it. Okay. So I'm not happy with him at all. But now I'm on Instagram or I'm on Facebook and I see an ad that says, everything in the Bible's true, but not everything in the Bible's you. High
Yeah.
quality game, sets the standard for faith-based gaming, whatever.
Right.
I don't have any tie to him, but I'm seeing it because you know that I previously bought the game. I don't know that you know that, right? So that's
Okay.
why I like that. I wouldn't tie back into that old bad experience at all. I'd only be leaning
Yeah.
into I know they buy games like this.
Okay.
And you don't have to sweet talk him. I just say, hey, so basically you're saying that you don't feel comfortable mailing the list because they had a bad experience. I get it. I still believe that there's an opportunity for you to make some money from this. And it's honestly better, I think, as an affiliate deal than an acquisition deal. So that you basically just say, let me retarget your people and I'll pay you a commission for anything that sells. And then there's no money up front for you. You're only paying based on performance. It's 100% earnout. If you want to acquire the list, you can. I'm not sure how valuable it would be.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that's
something like
kind of how I would approach it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah. Thank you, Roland.
You are very welcome.
Awesome. Mr. Jason Potts, how are you, my friend? What
Hey,
is your
Jason.
question?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Roland, I'll start with what I'm asking and then I'll give you the background. So
All right.
what I'm asking is help on how do I structure the tactical documentation, the contracts. So I approached a gentleman who was trying to sell his business, and after speaking with him for a while, I'm like, "You're not ready to sell, man. Let me help you." So we've converted it to a CFE. He does
Those are
need
such great deals, by the way. I'd like for everybody, congratulations on doing that. To me, that's my favorite thing to do is you talk to somebody and you turn it into a CFE, and those are some of the best deals I have done. Okay, go ahead.
I'm very excited. He's a younger guy. He's got lots of energy, and I think he's looking for a mentor. So this is just like I feel very excited about it. But
Perfect.
business does need an injection of some cash so he can go get some large contracts. And so I've agreed that I would inject 10% at the current valuation. It's about 40,000. But then we would then do a CFE deal where based off the profit, I earn more equity into the business. So I'm trying to, is that one contract? Is it two separate contracts? One for the equity injection and then a separate one for the profit growth? I'm just not sure how to kind of land on
Well,
that.
I think you can do it with one document. I think that from a financing standpoint, what I would want to do would be I would want to define the first money out of the 40K that you're putting in. I think you should get back, and it should come back as return of capital as opposed to compensation, so that you're not paying taxes on, so you don't have 40,000 that you put in, and now every dollar that you're receiving is taxable as ordinary income.
Okay.
So I think that would be something to think about. Excuse me. Then the document would basically be a loan agreement with warrants. So you would lend 40,000 to the business. It would be secured by the assets of the business. It would be returned from first dollars earned, or however you want to define it, from the new contracts that you're getting. And then, I'd want my money back as soon as possible. I always want my money back as quickly as I possibly can get it. That would be return of capital. And then your profit share that you would get on top of that would be whatever, did you say 10%?
Equity injection for 10% at the
Yeah, so
current
then you would get
valuation.
10%. So let's not call it an equity injection. Let's
Okay.
call it a loan coupled with a profits interest. And the way then that works is you're lending the business 40K, your 40K is secured, so you have the least, greatest chance of losing that. It comes back to you as return of capital, so you don't pay income taxes on getting your money that you already paid taxes on that you put in back. Then you have 10% of the profits of the business going forward. And that is basically in lieu of interest. So that's your deal, is I'll loan you this money, and you pay it back, and then I own 10% of the company in the form of, depending on the structure, phantom stock or a profits only interest. And then that also doesn't create a taxable event for you when you receive that equity. You didn't buy it for $40,000 and now you've got a 40,000 basis, and you never get the benefit of that until it sells, because maybe it'll sell, maybe it won't, maybe it'll sell in several years, but let's get you your 40K back immediately with no tax consequence, get you your 10% interest. Yes, that can all be done as one document.
Okay.
And if you need somebody to do that, we can refer you to an attorney that can, document that for you.
I would love that if that's Grant or whomever you've got.
Yeah, it's
I
Grant,
think
and I
it'd be
can chat
helpful.
with him about it when you get there, to just kind of pre-frame him, which will save you time and effort because I speak attorney.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Great, cool deal though. I like that. I think anytime we can de-risk your capital, that's good. The other thing that I would just say, and I think this benefits everybody, this conversation, because I like this kind of deal, is what is it that he needs the 40,000? Like, what is the specific use of the 40K going to be? And whatever that is, that's in the agreement. And I don't know that it, like, if he needs 40K immediately, or if there's a schedule of expenses and expenditures and costs that will be associated with getting these new agreements. But it's very easy to go into a deal like this and put that money in and then have it just disappear into the operations of the business through no bad intent of the entrepreneur. Just most of them aren't good at managing cash. So, like, your greatest way to ensure that you and the company are going to get the benefit of that money would be to carefully schedule the use of proceeds and also release it as those things happen, and for you to pay those expenses directly, as opposed to just taking 40K, writing it to him and putting it in the general account and hoping that he's able to manage that.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
And Jason, reach out if you need that connection with Grant. We're happy to help there.
The last thing I'll say, again, because I think it benefits everybody, would be potentially when you get those contracts, they could be financed. So you might be able to get your 40K back out of those through PO financing. And if you need connections, once you get them to a purchase order financer, we can help you with that.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, Peter, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, great. Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
How's it going?
It's been pretty good. So, yeah. So one of my questions, where did I put it? So I got two questions. Okay, and I'll give you the background afterwards. But is my valuation thinking correct? And if so, then I'd love to know your thoughts on how to structure a deal. So,
Okay.
we've got a guy in cap table, is kind of a mess, but they're doing 20 million in revenue. 16.8 of it is pass through. They're a staffing agency, so they work with hospitals and stuff to hire physicians, and so 16.8 of that goes straight to the physician.
Okay. So they got 3.2 million in real revenue.
In real revenue, right? But they think of themselves as a $20 million organization.
I'm happy they do that. I think that's good.
So they have 30 employees, almost 30. They were not profitable last year because of a bad deal that went through. But even if that deal did go through, they would have only had like maybe 300,000 in profit. Okay. So they are thinking of themselves as a $20 million organization. And so they're saying, if you do a GMV or GVM, however you would say that, a gross merchandise value, there's my notes, it'd be 0.5 times that. So they're valuing it at 10 million, and we're like, you're not even close, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
So
I believe that the legal term is smoking crack.
Okay, good. Because I think I said that in a nice way. And so they're still talking to us at least. So I'd love to have your thinking on how to structure a deal with them. I spent some time with AI, so I have some options. I can talk through that if you want. But some of their primary concerns are they've got some investors. The CEO himself is partial owner, and so that it's this idea. I've invested my 8 years into this. I want some meaningful thing out. Oh, and the other piece of this is I see this as a platform company because we're talking to several other what I would call one-man band sort of organizations that are producing about $1 million in EBITDA, but they're not really paying for anything out of that. They're just good salesmen. And so if you can roll some of these smaller one-man band staffing agencies that are state-specific and geo under them as a platform, then this makes it more interesting. So,
yeah, I think that in terms of the valuation, I mean, the valuations of those types of companies are out there and available. So you could go and pull some comps and show them that, a company that earns a loss has a hard time selling at all. And if
Yeah.
we disregarded the bad deal that hopefully won't be a recurring thing for them in different forms, then they're at 300K. And if the multiple on those businesses say, 5x, then you're at $1.5 million, and so that's
That's exactly what we did so far.
Yeah, so I
okay.
understand that that's not exciting for you, but it also is the reality that's out there. So number one, are you a seller? Are you not a seller? Do you want to go and get bigger or not get bigger? Do you want to do these things? If you are, then you're going to have to get real about your valuation with anybody that you work with. And that's kind of a threshold conversation. Now, a way around that is around the challenge that they have is CFEing the deal, or some sort of strategic partnership where you're baselining where they are right now, and then you're participating in the up. And that could be interesting. You could help them with the roll up of the smaller companies in terms of the strategy and execution on the acquisitions. Say, look, let's do this. It doesn't seem like we're going to get to a place where you're going to get what you feel the company is worth, and I understand and respect that. Yet we do have the reality of what the company is worth. So there seems to be an $8.5 million difference in the best case scenario of that. I don't know how we would bridge that gap, but what we could do is we could do some business together and help you increase the value of your company by getting other companies. And we could simply set up a separate company to do that. Let's set up an SPV that will be the acquisition company that goes and takes these new things and puts them into the deal. And we can do that together, where you're providing the operational skills and clients and stuff that you do, and I'll provide all of the let me go identify the deals and integrate them and acquire them and close them. And then let's split that, however you decide you want to split it. That would be more interesting to me. I wouldn't be personally super excited about doing that if there wasn't some payment that was coming from them.
Say that again. Sorry, someone. If there wasn't what?
If there wasn't some payment that was coming from them, because if they don't have some skin in the game, like 5 or 10,000, or so a month that they're paying you to do what you do, then I don't think you'll be a priority. And they'll probably find, given that they're losing money, or not doing great, I think they'll probably find other demands on their time that get prioritized over you, and you end up just kind of spinning your wheels. So I'd say if you can get some sort of, let's set up a new co that you're going to basically provide the ops, assuming that they're good at it. Because I mean, if it's a company that's doing what they're doing and they're not making any money, maybe you don't want them operating it. But assuming that they know what they're doing. Or they have
contracts with the 5 biggest providers in the U.S. For doing this, and
that's good. But if they're not good at doing it and they're losing money, then
I think they need to triple their pricing based on what it looks like. So there's some opportunities in that. But okay, cool. So your thinking is very in line with mine, and your AI. I don't know, GPTs or whatever. Those are fun to chat with and just kind of come up with. That's kind of the JV value or thing that they talked about. So
I think it's a CFE kind of deal, and I'm not sure that you want to be in the losing company. You create the value that you bring in a separate entity that you own more of at a reasonable value, as opposed to trying to beg your way into talk somebody out of an $8.5 million gap. That's a tough position.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes you talk that you want to try to bridge whatever that gap is, but too big of a gap. Like if they were wanting 3, I could probably figure out how to bridge that with earn in and stuff.
When it's a gap, we can usually bridge it. When it's a chasm, it's much more difficult.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah.
All right, Yudochi, you're up.
Hey, Dochi. Good to see you as always. But you are muted.
There you
go. Okay. Thank you, Roland. Thank you, Diana. Nice meeting you again.
Pleasure.
Okay. I have 2 questions. regarding a deal I want to close very shortly. But let me give a little background so that the question can make sense. Okay, so trying to acquire a business, medical support equipment like wheelchair, crutches, and all that. So that's what the business is all about. And they've been in the business for about 12 years, and the owner wants to retire. It didn't meet my criteria of at least 3 employees because it's self-run by the owner.
Okay.
And my wife wants to run it. It's okay, fine. The business, she's a retired person, so all right. So the average income revenue is about 300 to 350 per annum, and the simulated SDE I got giving me around 60, 80,000. 2 times multiple of that is about 120, 140.
Okay.
So she wants definite amount of 165,000. Doesn't want any seller finance. Wants to pull out. But
He wants how much?
165,000.
65,000?
165. I think
165.
165. Okay.
Yes, and it's guaranteeing opening stock inventory of about 80,000, and the fixed asset like the stacks and the display tables and the computers and others, maybe another 40, 50,000. So on the face of it, that amount looks good. So when the process of closing, but I want to know for this type of business, what red flags, what are the risks I could look out for? And secondly, how can I grow the business?
Okay. Well, let's the grow the business. We like acquisitions to grow the business, so that would be kind of how I would look at it. And obviously, there's all kinds of other things that would be too long for us to talk about. But in terms of the red flags, the things that I would be concerned about would be any negative changes in the financials month over month over the last 12 months. So I'd want to look at the monthly revenue and the monthly expenses and see, is there anything that seems to be trending in a negative direction? That could be that inventory is accumulating, because that means that they're not selling. They're either having, like, if inventory is accumulating and they haven't increased their buying of inventory, then that can mean that sales are lagging because it's building up and they haven't adjusted for that, right? And so there's too much capital that's tied up in the inventory, and it could indicate that sales were declining. Obviously, it could indicate that the cost of the inventory had increased as well, and so I'd want to kind of check into that. What does pricing look like? I'd want to know, are they affected at all by tariffs? Because that is are they buying supplies from China, and now we're in another 90 days and we don't know, what's that tariff going to work out to be and would it apply to the things that you've got? I think that the biggest concern that I would have would be that this is a one-person show. And so, for your wife to come in and run it, she's going to step into the shoes of that person. So if the seller is not willing to have an extended consulting period to transition the business, that would be a red flag. I believe asking for all cash is not a red flag. It can be, but I would not be eager to pay all cash for the business. I would be much more inclined to have the $80,000 in inventory be treated as inventory consignment and tell the seller, as I sell that inventory, I'll pay you the cost of it, because then you're effectively using the inventory to finance the business. And then I'd want, I'd want minimal down. And I think he's going to have a hard time selling it, anyway, to anybody. So because you're buying a job, you're basically buying your wife a job.
Yes,
as
more or
you go
less.
into it. Yeah. So
Yes.
so if we could do 80,000 in inventory financing, and was it 120 or 140, or did you have a price that you guys agreed on yet?
Yes, I agree. 165,000.
165. Okay.
Oh, yes.
So
Yes.
so then the remaining 85,000, I would maybe, I'd consider coming out of pocket 16, like 10%, 20% tops on that. And then the rest has got to be either an earnout, which would be my preference, or a seller note. Even if you said, look, the business is generating a profit of $7,000 a month right now. So I'll pay you $7,000 a month for 15 months, like something like that, so that you're giving him all the profit from the business during that time.
Yes.
So you'll only make money as you increase the value of it, but he's you're defraying the risk that that this one person show has. So then the other big challenge, I think, potentially is the transition of how does business happen. So where do customers come from? And usually in these businesses, it's long-term relationships. So what happens when he exits and you are there and don't have those long-term relationships? How well do those relationships transfer over? Which is why I would want like a 1-year transition time to be kind of part of the deal.
He's saying 1 month.
Yeah, it's not enough. That's a red flag, right? That is, look, and unless there's something that you can verify, like there are long-term contracts that are in place with these clients that you've got right now, that would be an offset to the red flag and concern about having the customers from a one-person show, carry over. And then how do new customers happen? Like what is customer fall off look like? Have they lost any customers, and if they have, why? And then how are new customers coming on? Are there any predictable selling systems? What does pipeline look like? How, I like all of that stuff you're going to want to really dig into, because the risk is that you get in there and then the relationships go away.
Yeah.
And you're not in the business for 30 years with connections and network, and now what happens, right? So those would be my big concerns. The standard due diligence stuff, like are there any tax levies? Are there any payroll tax levies? Are there any outstanding or threatened litigation? Are there any? What's happening in that industry and in that business that's coming around the corner that's causing them to sell? It sounds like he's just been in the business for a long time, so I like that. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So how do I grow the business? Assuming we are good to go. What else can I do to grow the business?
I mean, the easiest thing would be to say, where are the opportunities? Number one, when's the last time they raised prices? That's the first place I always look, because that's 100% of the price increase falls to the bottom line. So if you can go in and prices haven't been increased for 5 years or so, and there's not a contract, that's something to think about. Growing the top line of the business. In terms of getting more business, it's who's aggregated the attention and eyeballs of the ideal customer profile of the business. What is the ideal customer profile? Where does it come from now? And then how do you accelerate the generation of new business through what's already in place? So right now, is there a customer list that he's maintained? If not, how do we get a list or create a list of previously active customers that are no longer here, right? Because let's go and do a reactivation campaign and get back all the old customers that aren't here. How can we get the existing customers to buy more or buy more frequently? That's another couple of campaigns. Are there any loyalty campaigns or things like that could be started? Are there any discounts that could be offered based on quantity that would result in a net increase in profit to you? That would be something, like if they buy twice as much, but I give them 20% discount, do I end up making 40% more than I did before? Then that's worth the discount, right? That'd be that playing with what you've already got, I think, to start with. And then the next step would be who's aggregated the attention and eyeballs of the ideal customer profile, and where can I go and partner, acquire, contract, advertise with those people? That would be the next step. Probably thinking about getting a salesperson would be one of the biggest things that could, to work leads would be one of the biggest things you could do. If your wife's doing ops and you've got a commission salesperson that's working leads, that'd be a good place to go to. So those are some things I'd look at.
Well, very helpful. She has a part-time person that works part-time with her. So the person is ready to come along. Yeah. It's very, very helpful. Thank you so much, Roland. I appreciate it.
You are most welcome. Let me know how it goes.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Well, we have 3 more questions and we'll end today's call with those 3. So we're going to go with Sheldon, then we'll do Victoria and Steve. So Sheldon, what is your question, my dear?
Hey, Sheldon.
How's it going?
Good.
My question is based on a default. So I was putting together on the purchase sale agreement, and this is more for the lender, but worst case scenario, if I defaulted on the payments for the business and it just wasn't supporting the payments to the lender, What would be a good time frame as far as saying if I right now what I came up with it showed 2 months. So I don't know if that was reasonable, but we're
In other
the
words, if you
actual
default and you don't cure the default within
then the
that
seller
period of
would
time.
take over the business, and then because he's going to be also a personal guarantee on the loan.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to get a reasonable idea of like, okay, what point is it reasonable that worst case scenario that I was not able to, along with him, keep the business going because he's going to be staying on as a consultant, working in it as well. That he would actually assume that or take over the business, take it back over.
I think anything that you can get that is over 30 days is good for you. The longer,
Okay.
the better, right? So get as long as you possibly can.
Yeah.
I think fewer than 30 days is not commercially reasonable to cure something like that. So it gives you time to, you should see a default coming, right? Too. So you should have
Yeah.
noticed that, hey, like within the things aren't going well. It looks like I'm 60 days away from not, from ending up in default. And then you've got that 60 to start working on it. And then you've got another 30 if you actually fall into default. And if you can get 60 or 90 or more, yay, that's great. You might have the default, depending on what it is, like if he's going to take over the business, but that's not going to extinguish your interest in it, correct?
Well, it was as of now, and I was hoping to maybe possibly get a little bit more feedback on this, on maybe how I could restructure this. But it was where he would reassume the business, like he would basically take the business back if that happened, and it was set up for 2 months.
Okay. And he's the seller?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So he's a seller, but he's doing a personal guarantee on kind of getting the
On
thing
the
out. Okay. Yeah. No, I mean I think that's it. You've got all the options. Like you would be working to sell the business, bring in other partners, find other financing, all those kinds of things if you saw that it was headed in that direction. So I think it's basically that is the standard, thing that a seller is going to get is they're securing the asset, they're securing the sale with that. You would want to be sure that you had the cure period. You would definitely not want any acceleration clause, which is something that is typically part of an agreement like that. If you can negotiate that out of there, or if it hasn't been discussed, definitely don't put it in. But the acceleration clause says that in the event of default, everything becomes immediately due and payable. So,
Mhm.
that's good to not have in there if you can avoid it.
Mhm.
And then the only other thing that I could think of would be partial default. Like, what if you're in default, but you are able to make 70% of the payment? Could you build in, a readjustment so that, there was some ability for you to have a longer period to cure a partial default than an absolute default? That's about the only thing I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay. Perfect. And then one other question on this one was, I'm doing a bonus structure. So right now we're roughly 214,000 a month on gross revenue. To maintain that between 200 and 250,000, we're going to do for every 50,000 as far as increment that basically the business grew,
Yep.
you would get a certain percentage increased bonus just for helping with that. Right now it's set at the gross profit. So I was doing it originally on the gross
What's
revenue.
the gross profit versus the? Okay, so you want to be careful there to be sure that what the SG&A is that's coming out of there that leads to net. If you're at a 10% bonus on gross profit and your margin is 10%, that's tough.
Yeah, it wasn't a large. Well, I say it wasn't large, but I guess that was when I started looking at that. It wasn't a big difference. 'Cause I'd asked you this question before, and I guess I was going back and forth with Dan Sweet on this, and he had mentioned gross profit. I know you said preferred, which I do too, net profit. So I was kind of thinking maybe I should go back and just reassess this before finalizing everything. But
Especially since you guys are kind of running the business together, right?
right,
Yeah, I mean, I think that an incentive kicker on net, so that basically, let's say that he does something that you want, whatever that thing is. Maybe it's bring in a new contract or run a deal or something. Then on that deal, figure out based on the profit margin. So I would say, let's say the deal's $100,000 of revenue, and the average net of the company is 10%. So then you know that that 100K is going to generate 10 to the bottom line. So if you gave him 10% on the sale, you would effectively have no profit, and there would be no reason to do that because you're just basically washing the money in and out.
Right.
Whereas if you said on the profit, the net profit from that deal looks like it would be 10% based on our KPIs and our metrics, then I'll give you 10% of the 10%, which is 1%. That then that you're clear on that it's going to still make a profit, but you've also incentivized him, but it's also tied to that single deal, not to an overall number on the company.
Got it.
You also might consider capping that.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Sheldon. All right, we've got Victoria, then Steve. Victoria, what's your question?
Hey, Victoria.
Okay. Hi, Roland. How are you? Hi,
Hey.
everyone. So my question to you today is SPV.
Okay.
So is it like we register two different LLC? One is for SPV. We're using it to make this deal go through using that LLC to acquire this new business. Then after that, we're using another one for the long-term, this new business entity, or how that SPV used to in the.
So you would really only need one to acquire a deal. So SPV being a special purpose vehicle that is simply a separate company that you create to do the deal. So that way, if there is seller financing or something like that, all of the liabilities are in the SPV, the new company, not in your existing business or you personally. So you'd only really need to form one to do the deal. When you might think about doing more would be much more related to structuring the operations of the business and things like that. So I think you only need the one to do the deal.
Okay, so using the LLC A as SPV to do the deal. Then after that, you need to get the business operation. So when we run the business, and I could just using another LLC for the real business operation. That way separate out. Is that right?
Well, you could, but it's just a question of how many companies do you want to have. Like if you have a large business and lots of things going, then it could make sense to layer them. But if I'm just acquiring the business and then I can operate the business in the SPV that I use to acquire the business, because you're acquiring the assets usually, right? So I set up the new co that's the SPV. That company acquires the assets of the operating business. Now that business that SPV becomes the operating business, and then however you want to own that in your personal structure is kind of separate from that, right? You might have a holding company that owns all your investments. It doesn't really matter but with respect to this deal that we're talking about, like the new deal you're going to do, you really only need one.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, Steve, you get to round us out today. What is your question, my friend?
Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Hey, Roland. Hey, Deanna. Thank you guys so much. I just want to say thank you again for the program and everything. I just am in the process of finalizing my first CFE. We just finally closed the deal. Thank you very much, Deanna.
Congratulations. That's super cool.
Yeah, so when I say I'm in the process, so I had broached the conversation of a CFE. He kind of backed off a little bit. He's got a corporate job thinking, okay, I can tackle this. And now he's quickly realizing, oh, this is a lot more than I realized. And he doesn't understand any of the digital marketing stuff. So I just got off a call with him this morning and just looking at some of the basic things. And I'm like, you're not doing this business is not doing this, this, and this. He's like, can you help me? I'm like, yes, I can. So my point of my question, just giving you some context there, is I broached the whole topic of the CFE. I said, look, I'm interested. I'm open to the idea if you are. He backed off. What would be your recommendations on the timing and then percentage wise of a deal? Because I want to do this right and I don't want to scare him away, but at the same time, I know I can help this guy. We could triple this business in the next 18 months easily.
So your confidence alone should be really, really key in helping him get over the hurdle. You have the benefit of, look, you thought that this entrepreneur thing was gonna be easy. It turns out this entrepreneur stuff is a lot of work. You've already had the experience and you've not had the results that you desire. I'm absolutely 100% sure I can help with this business, or I wouldn't be doing this. And I'm making my money on the up from what we're able to do. So, you're crazy if you don't do this. Like that attitude that you have is, to me, really, really essential to making the deal happen. As far as the percentage, I mean, it's completely negotiable, right? So if you look at your effort and decide what you need for yourself to feel comfortable about doing it, and if you feel that you can triple the business, let's say that it's triple the profit. If you feel that you can triple the profit, then you can do a lot of things. You could say, look, I don't want to take anything away from you that you're already making, so I'm not asking for any part of the existing profit. I need to know that you're committed, so I need you to have a little bit of skin in the game. So I'm going to need that to take the form of X $1,000 a month. Which is okay. And then with respect to additional business that I bring in, I want 50% of that until we've tripled the business like I said we could. And at that point, I want to just own 50% of the business. That would be not atypical from deals that I've done in the past. 50-50 for you kind of being the person that's making it all happen is pretty hard to argue with. You putting your money where your mouth is and saying, I don't get that though, until I hit these milestones. And you can stepstone it along the way. Like you could say, when I've doubled it, it goes to, 50%, it goes to 25%. And when I've tripled it, it goes to 50. Give yourself as much time as you can negotiate to do that, to make it happen. But that's kind of where I would go with it to start with. Otherwise, you get to those deals that we talk about, like 10, 10, 10, 20, 20, 20, where you're saying, give me 10,000 a month against 10% of distributable profits plus 10% when it exits. So it's kind of for you to pick among those things. There isn't a right or wrong answer. It's just, what do you feel good about as a return on your effort? And what do you feel, makes sense based on the numbers and the situation that you're looking at?
Perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for, that context. So thank you very much for that feedback and just everything in general. It's just incredible. As you know, the opportunities that are out there are just jaw-dropping.
They do not stop, and there's more and more. I just saw a private equity report that says that acquisitions by PE firms are down 44%, which is awesome for us because it means that this is for small, like 0 to 10 and 10 to $50 million sized sales. What it means is that there are fewer exit options, that private equity is also holding on to their investments longer now. Maybe it's because of tariffs, maybe it's because of, high interest rates and they think they're going to go down, and, million reasons that it could be. The good news for us is it means that there's fewer buyers that we're competing against that are all cash buyers, because PE is stepping out of a lot of the businesses that it kind of dipped down into that were, in our small business world. But large deal activity, while it's down, is still strong. So when we put these things together and look to exit, we still have the ability to realize good returns on that. So I think it's a really, really exciting time to be doing this kind of stuff. On your deal, what are you going to do now based on what we talked about?
Well, I'm going to give it some more thought now that you gave me this context. I may do you keep what you bought the business for, that I helped him find and negotiate and all that.
Yep.
And then I'll take a percentage of the upside, and I'll try the 50%. I'll kind of do a stair stepping. That's where that feels comfortable, at least at this point in the conversations with him. Now that we're kind of getting into the weeds, that the deal closed, which was nice, and I got money on that deal, which was good. So. Nice. The stuff does work, so this was a lot of fun. I was a big confidence builder, but that goes back to my comment of, that the more you do this stuff, you just realize the stuff that is out there, it's jaw-dropping. And I've been working with, I know Deanna knows this, but I've been working with Marty on the M&A side, and so I get to see behind the scenes of these businesses a lot of times doing the sales stuff. And when you look under the covers, you see the P&L and you see the guts of the business. It's like, oh my God, there is just, they leave so much money on the table, which is good for us knowing all of this stuff in Epic. So
I love it. Awesome. Very good. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Dee, what else we got?
All right, so Steve, Gary, anyone else that has closed a deal and you have not told us about your amazing deal, then you need to make sure that you ping Bailey and let her know, because we want to put you in our deal book and brag about you, and two, when you come to the live event, we want to give you a trophy and share
Well, and
that win.
3, it also is your admission into the gated area of the WhatsApp for deal doers.
That is true. That's brand new this week as well. So you're right. So definitely please ping Bailey if you have closed your deal. We want to make sure you have all 3 of those things. Also, if you are coming to September, please, please, please let myself or Bailey know. We want to make sure we have a seat reserved for you. So ping us and let us know about that. Also, some of you were asking about access to Grant and to our SBA concierge. Ping myself or Bailey. We will do a direct intro for both of them if you need that. We want to make sure that you have the resources that you need. And then let's end today with put one takeaway in the chat of what you loved the most about your call here today with Roland. We want to give feedback. So put your biggest takeaway. And again, as always, Roland, today was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your questions. Keep doing those deals. Let us know how it's going. We are here to help you.
Awesome. All right, everyone, have an amazing week. Go close deals. Bye, everyone.